Hey folks, this is Eric Walls, field agronomist with Sun Ag. This week on Fieldside Chats, we're going to take a look at 2 soybean diseases and also take a look at corn pollination. So we're going to start off staging our plants. I've already shucked off a lot of these leaves for you so it's easier to see, but we go down four nodes, and currently we just have a pod that's about 3/4 of an inch long. So this plant would be at the R4 growth stage. This and this variety both planted the same date. This variety is a 2.9 maturity. The next plant I'll stage is a 3.6, so mid group 3. Coming down the plant, 1, 2, 3, 4. We see we have a pod, also a seed in there. The seed is greater than 1/8 of an inch long, so this plant would be staged at R5. So management decisions by this point are pretty much done. Historically, fungicides are applied R3 or R4, so this plant, for the most part, is just gonna rely on the weather to take it the rest of the way. So the 2 soybean diseases I want to talk about this week are sudden death syndrome and the red crown rot. Red crown rot's pretty new to the Midwest, and the symptomology is very similar to the sudden death syndrome. So you'll first see chlorosis between the veins, and then finally you'll have necrosis, so the dying of those leaves between the veins. But we're accustomed to seeing sudden death syndrome locally, and you may go out to a field and see plants that look the same. The key difference would be digging those plants up and look at the base of the plant. You'll see the redness above the soil line. That's hence the name, the red crown rot. Just want you to be aware of that. Just because you see some dead looking beans in the field doesn't necessarily mean that it is sudden death syndrome. The red crown rot's gonna enjoy warm and wet weather, but also an earlier planting date is more favorable to that disease. The red crown rot, currently we're going to manage that with better seed treatments at this time. So on the insect and disease front for corn, I still see some small numbers of corn aphids. We have them here in the agronomy plot, and notice that the corn aphids were really low in the plant. So I know it was really hot and muggy that day, so maybe they were trying to take advantage of that microclimate closer to the ground. Still seeing some rootworm beetles, but we're not catching enough on our sticky traps, or I'm not being told that we're catching many on our sticky traps at other locations. So at this time, what you're doing must be right for management of the corn rootworm beetles. On the disease front, again, it's been shockingly clean. We had what we thought were textbook conditions in May and June for just an explosion of tar spot and gray leaf spot, but to date we don't see them, which is a great thing, especially if you're putting fungicides on. That's they're not having to combat against any disease, they're just out there for plant health. We'll keep checking for diseases though. So you heard me mention at the beginning, should we be planting our corn a little bit later than we're accustomed to take advantage of cooler nights during grain fill? And a thought came to mind this morning when Dr. Bela was talking on Ask This Agronomist. Nighttime temperatures above 73 degrees. Some research has indicated that you may be losing maybe a bushel per night. I did go back on a weather site to check to see in the month of July, and we've had 6 nights of 73 degrees or above. So let's just say 5 or 6 bushel has potentially been lost due to nighttime temperatures being too warm. They compared that or contrasted that with Colorado, the state of Colorado, or Oregon or Washington, where they grow corn that consistently has nighttime temperatures in the 50s, and they have a lot better corn yields because of that. Could you plant corn later in May so that it is filling grain during more of August instead of part of July and all of August, to get into that month where we typically have lower nighttime temperatures? So historically, that doesn't mean the year that you try this it's going to be that way, but just something to think about. So we're going to look at the same 4 fields that we've been in the past for the pollination. So I can tell you I'm not impressed by what I'm seeing so far, and it only makes sense that the warmer nighttime temperatures have played a role in some of this poor pollination this year. We'll start off with our 110 day corn. You can see some irregularity in the lower, so the butt of the ear. The tip of the ear doesn't look too bad, just larger kernels. But if we look throughout the bottom half of the ear, you see a lot of smaller kernels in there. So that indicates that pollination came later, and those kernels are struggling to catch back up. So a few gaps in these. This corn was planted in middle of May. This, again, I'm pulling from the same spot each week. So girth on these, not many around, 12 to 14 rows around, so not terribly girthy. But again, another ear where we see a lot of gaps and smaller kernels. So just too warm. Silks were too long, probably didn't allow for all the pollination to happen. So that's the middle of May or middle April planting. 110 day. This is 112 day. It's a different field, but within 2 days of planting, pollination is not too bad. The tip, so the upper quarter of it is a little sketchy, but the rest of it looks pretty uniform on the 112 day. And again, this could be hybrid specific why it's looking this way, because these fields are only about 2 miles apart. 112 day versus 116 day. This is a much girthier ear. Again, we're seeing some gaps at the top and throughout. This one's kind of got some issues on the back side. So the underside of the ear, the silks were probably too long, didn't get pollinated as timely, and they're playing catch up. So you can see some kernels are already getting some dark yellow color to them. They're getting doughy, so they're almost at the R4 growth stage, versus these that are still blister up to milk, so R2 to R3. So you got about 3 different moistures going on here on this year because of that. And then finally, the corn that was planted about a short month later, 114 day. Again, I just grabbed these ears at random. I did break the tip off when I was doing this, but a lot of gaps in this ear. This corn is it's at R3, so it's at a milk stage at this point. But seeing a lot of smaller, tiny kernels in here. If it remains warm and dry, they probably definitely don't make it. Had good length there and girth, just didn't pollinate at the right time, unfortunately. So, and this is mid-May, so again, I question if we should maybe plant a little later. You just don't know. I mean, but it's a fun idea. I want you to comment below on what you think a guy should do. Should he look at planting later? And if you did, well, how would you manage that new planting date? Would you stay with 114 day corn, or would you slide back to like 109 day corn? So comment below just to let us know what your thoughts are. Thanks for watching this week's edition of Fieldside Chats. Next week, we're going to talk a little bit about cover crops, and I'll leave you with a challenge. Can you identify this cover crop? We'll see you next time.